In the barren desert of Canaan, a woman loved passionately, yet that love thrust her into a whirlwind of rivalry and suffering. Rachel, one of the women of the Bible, carried a heart ablaze for Jacob, but found herself trapped in the shadows of competition with her sister Leah. Could faith be strong enough to lift her above it all? Could grace heal a shattered heart? Today, we uncover the untold story of courage, wisdom, and divine justice that shaped Rachel's life. Step into this emotional journey where love faces trials and redemption always awaits. Follow the channel so you don't miss these inspiring untold stories. Hit the subscribe button and leave a comment. How do you think Rachel found her light? Under the scorching sun of Canaan, Rachel walked beside the stream, her eyes sparkling like pearls. She was the youngest daughter of Laban, a seasoned shepherd, renowned for his cunning and the beauty of his two daughters. Rachel not only possessed a captivating appearance, but also carried in her heart a fierce faith in God, believing her destiny was ordained by him. When Jacob, a fugitive from his grandfather's house, set foot on Laban's ranch, his vow to work 7 years to marry Rachel burned like a fervent oath under the desert night. Their love blazed brightly, like an unyielding flame illuminating the Canaan sky. But in that ancient setting, it wasn't just moonlight and vows. Leah, the eldest sister with sorrowful, tearful eyes, yearned to be loved, always standing in her younger sister's shadow. Arranged by Laban to marry first to uphold tradition, Leah endured silently, while Rachel eagerly anticipated her happiness. The desert wind whistled through the tent flaps, as if whispering tales of jealousy and pain. Rachel, though she loved Jacob with all her being, began to feel the weight of family pressures and the subtle rivalry with Leah. Each night she prayed beside a makeshift altar, beseeching God for the wisdom to preserve her love amidst the storm of hatred. The conflict unraveled when Laban declared, by custom, the eldest daughter must wed first. Rachel stood at the crossroads of fate, accept her lot or rise for love. Her courage was ready to be tested, but the path ahead stretched long, filled with tears and hope yet to bloom. On the wedding night, Rachel lay awake, her heart pounding with anticipation. She awaited Jacob's silhouette to pass through the white veil. Instead, Leah, with bewildered, fearful eyes, was led into the tent. The next morning, as the thin mist dissolved under the dawn's light, Rachel faced a cruel truth. She had been betrayed. Jacob, unaware of his father-in-law's deception, was stunned to see a familiar face that wasn't the one he longed for. Rachel's heart shattered, not only from losing her night of joy, but also from the wound inflicted by her own kin. That unspoken pain made her question whether grace truly existed in her life. In the days that followed, Rachel and Leah lived under one roof, yet their souls were worlds apart. Rachel watched as Leah was cared for by Jacob, blessed with children, while she remained alone. Each cry of a newborn from Leah's tent pierced Rachel's heart like a needle. In anguish, she wondered, why has my longing to be a mother gone unanswered? Has God forgotten me? The rivalry between the sisters escalated as Leah bore 4 sons, while Rachel languished in silent despair. One night, by the flickering light of an oil lamp, Rachel knelt in prayer. Tears fell onto the hot sand as she pleaded with God to grant her the gift of motherhood. In the stillness, a vision appeared. An angel emerged, offering her hope to rise above. A whisper echoed, "Your faith will be tested, but you will not be forgotten." The next morning, Rachel awoke with a lighter heart. She resolved to find her voice in the family in her own way. Following Canaanite custom, Rachel proposed that Jacob take Bilhah, her loyal handmaid, as a concubine to bear children on her behalf. When Bilhah gave birth to Dan, then Naphtali, Rachel named them, declaring, "God has judged, and God has given me victory." Though some criticized her, Rachel found joy and hope in this. She understood that grace doesn't always come as expected, but sometimes through arduous paths. Yet the race for offspring continued. Leah, wounded by pride, had her handmaid Zilpah bear 2 more sons for Jacob. Rachel's heart began to see that true victory lay not in the number of children, but in inner peace. She started treating Leah with kindness, sharing small feasts, confiding under the moonlight. Hatred gradually gave way to compassion. Rachel discovered the power of forgiveness, something she once thought unattainable. The climax arrived when Rachel, after countless trials, conceived her own child. She knelt in her tent, tears mingling with overwhelming joy. The name Joseph, God has added, rang out as a testament to the miracle of faith. Hope ignited, dispelling the darkness of years of pain. Rachel shared her vision with Jacob, affirming that God's grace was never absent. When the family decided to leave Laban for the promised land, Rachel took a final act of courage. She secretly took her father's household idols, not to worship them, but to protect her family from superstition. As Laban pursued them, Rachel sat calmly on the donkey, claiming she was unwell from childbirth, preventing Laban from searching her. This bold act proved that wisdom and divine justice walk hand in hand with those of faith. Now Rachel stands as a biblical icon, a woman who rose from bitterness, trusting in God's grace and justice. Though her life ended giving birth to Benjamin, the youngest son named Son of My Sorrow, the spiritual legacy Rachel left endures through Israel's lineage, beginning with Joseph. Rachel's story carries a timeless message. Rivalry or suffering is not the end, but a stepping stone to learning forgiveness, rising above, and finding inner peace. When we face trials, let us remember that divine grace and justice are always near, guiding each step through the harsh desert of life. Let Rachel's journey inspire you. Though tears may linger in your heart, though dreams of motherhood or happiness are delayed, never abandon faith. For as Rachel proved, when faith pairs with wise action, grace will touch your heart and turn miracles into reality. The wedding night draped the camp in a silvery veil, with moonlight gently piercing the gauzy fabric, tracing shimmering patterns across the desert sky. Rachel sat quietly in the humble tent, her heart racing, each breath carrying the faint scent of smoldering sandalwood. She waited, each moment stretching endlessly, for Jacob's silhouette to pass through the curtain, to come to her, to offer the first smile of her future husband. Rachel's arms trembled slightly as she sat on the woven mat, her hand resting on her pristine white garment. Hope flared like a small flame, warming a heart that had already weathered countless storms. In that moment, memories of the 7 years of labor under Laban's roof floated. Jacob's warm smile when they first met by the well, his whispered promise under the stars, "I will work until I can walk by your side," and the trusting gaze that revealed a love so true. Rachel smiled softly, happiness surging, touching the depths of her soul. She believed God's grace had guided their love. that fate had solemnly woven their lives into a sacred destiny. But as dawn broke, the veil was lifted, and Rachel froze. Before her stood not Jacob, but Leah, her sister's face stamped with morning dew, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. Rachel couldn't comprehend what was happening. Her heart pounded as she saw the white veil wrapped around Leah's head. The veil meant only for her. Laban, the cunning father, had switched the brides under cover of darkness, placing Leah in the bride's role to uphold the custom that the eldest must wed first. When Jacob awoke beside a woman who was not Rachel, he realized he had been deceived. The hearts of both sisters shattered in the moment they recognized the betrayal from their own family. As reality sank in, Rachel felt as though all sounds of the desert vanished. Only the shattering of her heart remained. She didn't scream or burst into tears. Rachel stood, stepping lightly toward Leah, her eyes heavy with pain. In that silent moment, the sisters faced each other, wordless. Leah, lips pressed tight, began to weep. Her once fragile smile now fractured, revealing a heart no less wounded than Rachel's. Leah's pain stemmed not from deceiving Jacob, but from a lifelong yearning to be loved, overshadowed by her younger sister. Rivalry surged suddenly between two hearts tangled in hurt. Both Leah and Rachel longed for Jacob's embrace, for the warmth of a husband's hand for his young bride. But alongside that longing burned a smoldering flame of jealousy, consuming both souls. Rachel, who once trusted in grace and prayer, now swirled in a sea of doubt. She wondered if God was looking down, witnessing her humiliation. That night, Rachel quietly left the tent, walking toward the stream. The thirst and exhaustion of 7 years of labor seemed to fade, replaced by depletion and despair. The moonlight mocked her, rippling on the water, casting shadows of shrubs, but offering no comfort. Rachel knelt, the cool stream touching her bare knees. She offered a prayer, her choked voice ringing in the still air. Lord, do not forsake me. I have given my whole heart to Jacob, but I cannot bear this pain. In the depths of despair, Rachel slipped into a hazy sleep. In her dream, an angel appeared, radiant as the morning star. The angel spoke softly, whispering, "Your faith will be tested, but you will not be abandoned." The whisper echoed, seeping into the depths of her soul, kindling a faint spark of hope. When the second dawn broke, Rachel awoke with tear-streaked eyes, but a new fire burned within her heart. In the weeks that followed, Leah bore 4 sons, Reuben, the firstborn, then Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Each tender cry of a child from Leah's tent carved deeper into Rachel's heart. She watched Jacob tend to each child, kissing them tenderly, while she remained alone. Whispers spread through the tribe. Rachel cannot bear children, she must be cursed. Those rumors added weight to the young bride's shoulders. Rachel grew weary, tormented, questioning, does God truly hear my prayers? She retreated to her corner of the tent, clutching a woolen pillow tightly. Each heavy breath carried a gnawing question. Why can I not be a mother? Why does grace seem to turn away from my heart? Loneliness and self-doubt began to consume her slowly. Yet, in the abyss of despair, Rachel recalled the angel's whisper. She stood, breathing deeply the salty desert air, lifting her face to the heavens. Her heart still bled, but deep within, where the light of faith had not yet faded, Rachel found the source of her strength. She resolved not to let pain and baseless rumors define her life's worth. Rachel knew the journey ahead was long, with challenges still awaiting. But she also believed that, as dawn always breaks the night, God's grace would illuminate the darkness in her heart. With that faith, Rachel stepped back into the tent, ready to face Leah, Jacob, and herself. She would not cease praying nor stop seeking divine grace and justice until her heart was truly healed. Though storms still raged, Rachel learned that grace does not abandon those who dare to trust. Rachel refused to let pain define her. After countless nights kneeling in prayer by the flickering oil lamp, she learned that faith was not just silent pleas, but a driving force for action. She rose in the desert, listening to the wind blend with the rhythm of her heart, and resolved to do what her soul urged, to give grace a chance to triumph over injustice. Following Canaanite tradition, a handmaid could bear children for a barren mistress. Rachel, with the wisdom gained from moments of anguish, proposed that Jacob take Bilhah, her loyal servant of many years, to conceive in her stead. When Bilhah gave birth to 2 sons, Rachel named the elder Dan, meaning God has judged, and the younger Naphtali, God has given me victory. In that moment, Rachel did not merely employ human cunning. She sowed seeds of hope in the plan of the Almighty. She believed each infant's cry was the voice of grace, reminding her that faith is never in vain. Grace does not come as we desire, but as He ordains. And she, through courageous action, chose to trust in that sacred promise. But the race to bear children with Leah only intensified. As Bilhah brought forth 2 small lives, Leah, burning with no less pride, had her trusted handmaid Zilpah give birth to 2 boys, Gad and Asher. Leah's 4 sons stood as clear symbols of blessed motherhood, while Rachel clung to children born of a handmaid's blood. The rivalry was not just in numbers. It seeped into every breath, every dream. The line between grace and resentment grew thin as sisterhood became an invisible battlefield, where every glance, every gesture carried pain and longing. One night, as the desert fell into stillness and the sky stretched with countless stars, Rachel felt her heartbeat merge with the breath of the universe. She returned to her tent, sitting quietly on a tattered mat, her hand resting on her empty womb. The wind slipped through the tent's seams, carrying a rustle like the Creator's whisper. My grace for you has not run dry. That whisper, like cool water, washed away her doubts, opening within Rachel a space for kindness and forgiveness. She awoke. Victory lay not in the number of children, but in inner peace. From that moment, Rachel began sharing love with Leah. They wove wool in silence, their hands entwining threads as if mending their once fractured hearts. They drew water from the well, each ladle passed between them, an unspoken apology. Under the star-scattered desert sky, Rachel and Leah shared earthly tales of days their father led them among the flocks, of laughter under olive trees, of the shadow of their late mother. In those rare moments, the sisters realized that love, whether for Jacob or his mother's, only flourished when nurtured by empathy and forgiveness. Alongside this budding unity, Rachel took a bold step. She confronted Laban, their cunning father, to demand rights for both sisters. Stepping into his tent, Rachel spoke firmly, her voice steady. We are not merely your daughters, but instruments of God. Please recognize our worth as women chosen by Him, not mere pawns in human schemes. Her words pierced the age-old darkness like a beam of light, leaving Laban, the man who wielded deceit for gain, stunned by her heartfelt resolve. That moment marked a turning point. Laban, awed by the voice of divine justice, quietly acknowledged Leah and Rachel's rights, granting them clear standing in the family. Biblical women like Rachel did not merely endure, they asserted their worth through faith and action. They were voices of wisdom amid webs of intrigue, symbols of courage in the face of injustice. Rachel, now matured through life's storms, understood that every action, small or great, could become a seed for a harvest of grace. She returned to the tent where Leah cradled her youngest son, offering a gentle smile. The sisters needed no words. Their warm gazes spoke of forgiveness and a new beginning. In that sacred moment, the Canaan desert seemed to glow under the Creator's hand, praising Rachel's perseverance and faith. Rachel's journey was far from over, but she had uncovered a truth of the heart. Grace lies not in circumstances, but in the courage to believe in something greater. Divine justice is not just a reward for those who wait patiently, but a call to rise, to love, and to act. Rachel's story, with her steadfast steps on scorching sand, proves that when a heart is lit by faith, all darkness fades. And in the harsh desert, the laughter of two sisters rang out like a hymn of grace, teaching us lessons of love, forgiveness, and divine justice. The conflict reached its peak when Rachel, after months of clinging to hope, realized she remained empty. Each morning she awoke, the empty bed beside her a stark reminder of a pain she could share with no one. Jacob was still absent, and her heart ached with a longing to cradle a tiny life. The dawn's light slipped through the tent seams, casting shadows of past moments of happiness on Rachel's face. She wondered, does God hear my feeble prayers? One night, as the desert wind howled through the palm fronds, Rachel knelt beside her thinly matted bed. The tent was silent, save for the faint warmth of a swaying oil lamp in the darkness. Tears silently streamed down, soaking her coarse robe. She pressed her hands to her womb, where only emptiness resided, and uttered a heart-wrenching plea. Lord, I would rather die than live forever in this pain. Her prayer echoed through the camp, mingling with the distant sounds of sleeping sheep. Her vow became a final cry of despair. In that moment of utter anguish, a miracle emerged. One morning, life stirred quietly but powerfully within Rachel's core. She was pregnant. Joy erupted in her like a spark tearing through the night. From the depths of her heart, Rachel felt the beat of a new heart, strong, full of hope. When the child's first cry rang out, Rachel clutched the baby to her chest, tears of happiness streaming down. Jacob, who had patiently waited by her side, stood in awe as he saw their tiny son nestled in his wife's arms, his eyes shining with gratitude. They named him Joseph. God has added. The name carried deep gratitude and bore witness to the boundless grace of God. Each breath, each cry from Joseph seemed to affirm the sacred promise, I will not forget you. In Rachel's arms, Joseph was not just a son, but a symbol of faith that never waned. It is said that the miracle of grace always comes with trials, and Rachel was no exception. As the family prepared to flee from Laban, opening a future in the Promised Land, a final challenge arose. Laban, the ever-scheming father, suspected they were escaping after stealing his household idols, cherished symbols of family worship. Under the mystical glow of the setting sun, Jacob led the entourage away from the old camp, with Rachel and Joseph following, her face etched with resolve. Before setting out, Rachel, with a courageous heart, decided to take the idols, not to worship them, but to shield her family from superstition and unnecessary risks. She secretly hid them under the donkey's saddle, her heart pounding as Laban pursued. The sound of hooves echoed on the sandy ground, carried by the wind with the scent of thirst and dust. When Laban caught up, he demanded sternly, "Where are the idols? Who took them?" Rachel, still recovering from giving birth to Joseph, was frail. She sat hunched on the donkey, one arm cradling her son, her voice weak but resolute. "I am in pain from childbirth and cannot dismount." She raised her eyes to Laban, her gaze holding both pain and defiance. Traces of exhaustion marked her youthful face, but Rachel's spirit shone with unprecedented strength. Laban, though suspicious, could not resist the sincerity in her words and eyes. He nodded, foregoing a search of the saddle. In that quiet moment, Rachel proved that wisdom and boldness had become her greatest weapons. She not only safeguarded material heirlooms, but ensured the safety of her family on their journey to a new land. Through darkness and danger, Rachel grasped a profound truth. God's grace not only heals wounds, but guides courageous steps. She held Joseph in her arms, feeling each warm breath, and silently thanked every twist of fate. Across the vast desert, with the whistle of wind and rustle of palms, Rachel seemed to hear the sweet music of redemption. Her untold story is not just one of fervent love for Jacob, but a journey of finding strength in redemption. It began with a girl waiting by a stream, endured the pain of being given to the wrong husband, nights of tears, and culminated in the moment grace arrived through a child's cry. Each step of Rachel's path, from a deceived bride to a courageous mother, testifies to the sacred promise, "I am with you." Now, Rachel was no longer the fragile girl, but a resilient woman, a mother who learned to transform suffering into courage. She tied back Joseph's hair, offered a gentle smile, and took Jacob's hand. They continued their journey toward the distant horizon, where a new dawn awaited. Though the future was uncertain, Rachel held fast to one truth. When faith intertwines with wise action, grace will always light the way. And in the harsh desert, Joseph's laughter rang out like a song of triumph, reminding every heart that redemption is always there, waiting for us to step forward. Rachel, from a young girl carrying an unquenchable longing for love, traversed years steeped in jealousy and suffering to rise and find true grace. Her journey, which seemed merely a struggle for Jacob's love and the desire for motherhood, unfolded into a far grander tapestry, one of unyielding faith, extraordinary courage, and the power of sisterhood surpassing all barriers. When Joseph was born, his first cry marking the miracle of grace, Rachel not only became a mother, but was added to by God with hope and a future for her entire lineage. The name Joseph was not just a name. It was a living testament to God's promise. In our emptiest moments, He still comes and grants us the very best. But Rachel's story didn't end with the angel's favor. As she gathered around Joseph, gazing at the tender face of her firstborn son, Rachel understood that grace came with responsibility, the responsibility to trust, to love, and to pass that faith to the next generation. Through each day nurturing Joseph, Rachel reflected on the path she had walked, the tear-soaked nights of prayer, the moments of utter despair, the seasons when she thought she could no longer stand. She realized that every tear was not in vain. They had cultivated a faith within her that grew stronger, more resilient. Alongside the twilight of motherhood, Rachel found the chance to mend her bond with Leah, once her bitter rival. They wove wool together in the dim glow of an oil lamp, sharing delicate threads as they shared hidden confidences. They drew water from the old, so their hands entwined in the cool stream, like an invisible thread pulling two wounded hearts closer. In that silence, their sisterhood grew, leaving no room for jealousy, only space for love and understanding. Rachel learned that grace not only healed her individually, but flowed to those around her, transforming broken relationships into enduring bonds. This journey crystallized when Rachel confronted Laban, the cunning father who had deceived her on her wedding night. Amid the sand-swept, windswept camp, Rachel was no longer the timid girl, but a formidable woman, ready to speak her worth and Leah's. She stood before her father, her gaze resolute, her voice resounding. "We are not merely your daughters, but instruments of God. Treat us with respect and fairness, not as pawns in your schemes." Her words were not just a lesson for Laban, but a charge for all generations of women. Do not let societal biases stifle your value. Rise, speak truth, and dare to demand equality. Rachel understood that wisdom came not only from knowledge, but from moments of quiet listening, silent prayers, and the courage to act rightly. When she quietly took her father's idols to protect her family before leaving Canaan, it was not an act of superstition, but a display of wisdom, using every resource for a righteous purpose. Amid the traps of superstition and sin, Rachel remained faithful to the Almighty, wielding her intellect to safeguard her family, not relying on lifeless objects. Joseph's cry rang out again when Rachel gave birth to Benjamin, her second son. Amid the agony of labor, Rachel comforted herself with a prayer. "Lord, I entrust the future of these two sons to you. Guide them on the path of justice." But cruel fate called Rachel to God's side as Benjamin uttered his first cry. Though her body broke, her soul and legacy endured. The 12 tribes of Israel were born, stemming from Rachel's sons, carrying the life and promise of God. Rachel's legacy was not palaces or mighty dynasties, but an unshakable faith that grace is sufficient for those who dare to trust. She left behind a lesson for future generations. Though life may shatter, though pain may linger, we can still offer sincere prayers and act with courage. Everyone will face moments of despair, but in the darkest times, God's grace will touch the heart, opening a path of hope. Connecting to today's world, we still face similar challenges. The pressures of work, jealousy in relationships, loneliness in crowds, and self-doubt that drains faith. Like Rachel, each of us can learn to hold our heads high, sow hope through prayer, and transform pain into a catalyst for action. In life's storms, seek the light within, the light of faith, courage, and wisdom, to illuminate the path ahead. Rachel teaches us that grace is not a luxury but a gift ready for those who persistently seek it. Divine justice does not delay but arrives in time for those who trust. She is proof of faith's power when blended with wise action, not waiting for perfect means, but using what is at hand to create miracles. Let Rachel's story inspire you today. When you feel alone, when you're weary, when you think there's no way out, Remember that grace and justice await your open heart. Dare to believe, dare to act, and dare to forgive. That is the path to the light. Thank you for following Rachel's story, from a girl in darkness to one who stepped into the dawn of grace. Subscribe to the channel, share this video with friends, and leave a comment. What did you learn from Rachel? Pray for one another and may God bless you on every path.